All right, everybody. Welcome back. Police in Queens have arrested a man who allegedly mowed down 4 people early yesterday morning.
Plus, multiple migrant shelters across Queens, they are shutting down. This all happening amid concerns deportation centers could be set up across the city. Joining us this Monday morning to discuss these very important issues impacting the residents of Queens is Borough President Donovan Richards. Borough President, thank you so much for being with us. So we'll get to the migrant issues in just a second, but let's start off with that hit and run in Jackson Heights. So far, police made an arrest, but as we've seen, it could have been much worse.
It could have been much worse, but thank God everybody will survive this horrendous incident, and he will be brought to justice.
I want to talk about a big topic of conversation, and that was the meeting between Mayor Eric Adams and the soon-to-be border czar, Tom Homan, right? And there was a meeting discussing what exactly it's going to look like with mass deportations, working with ICE, and so on and so forth. Now, the mayor had that press conference afterwards. You heard what he had to say. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I represent the most diverse county in the United States of America, and 50% of us are foreign-born. Matter of fact, my father just became a United States citizen in 2020. So we're going to do everything we can to fight any of these deportations that are unjust. What we saw in 2017 when they were separating children, putting them in cages, separating families, and communities really were living in fear. So people have a right, obviously, to try to obtain citizenship through asylum, and we're going to fight every inch to make sure that the residents of Queens feel protected.
Let me ask you what you meant by that. When you say unjust, right? So what does that mean? Somebody who's committed a crime? Somebody who's been already found guilty of a crime? What is unjust? Well,
let me say this. You know, everybody will have their day in court. And by the way, ICE already deports people who commit crimes. So this is not some new phenomenon. Recently, there have been calls to open up an ICE office at Rikers Island. But let me say this. You know, I view some of this stuff as mission creep. And we're going to do everything we can to fight for residents who are, and many of the residents in Queens are doing the right thing. They are trying to work. What we should be focused on is making sure that they can find a pathway to citizenship, and Congress needs to get to work on it.
With those migrant shelters at this point, do we know which are slated for closure?
So there have been, I think, 7 announced in Queens, Floyd Bennett Field being the largest one. We still have Creedmoor, which has about 1,000 individuals housed at it. So there's conversations ongoing with the state, but most importantly is we don't want to see people sleeping on our streets. So people have the right to shelter. That's part of the law here, and we need to make sure people are housed.
All right, so that's on the migrant front. Let me talk about the commute for a second here, because just in about a month, there's going to be that major shutdown of the A service and the Rockaways. Now, we talked about this with you once before, right? But we're hearing from more and more people who are just not sure the bus service is going to really be what they say it's going to be. Is there any alternative?
Well, we did meet with the MTA president, and we did get some concessions. So I am confident that they will be monitoring, and we will see an increase in bus service. We also will have more express bus service, and that will come further down into the Rockaways. And the LIRR is going to be $275 for the first time. You know, they'll be honoring city ticket as well. So there's no easy answer to this anytime. I would often joke as a former Rockaway resident, it's easier to get to Florida by plane than it is to get to Manhattan by bus and train coming from the Rockaways, but we're going to do everything to continue to monitor the situation.
All right, let's talk about what could possibly be changing to the landscape visually. You held a public hearing last week on the Metropolitan Park proposal, which includes a casino and a convention center at Citi Field. How are residents feeling about this? What's the temperature?
Well, every community board in Queens, I think like 7 of them heard this, and they all voted to approve the Metropolitan Park project. Now, let me say this. This is an $8 billion project. You look at the challenges up in Corona on Roosevelt Avenue, which you've reported on. This is about job opportunities. This is a good union jobs. We talk about over-enforcement of street vendors. We're going to have the Taste of Queens food hall. So we'll be able to get some of those street vendors into a permanent stall at Citi Field. $500 million in upgrades to the Mets stadium, to the Mets subways, where you get off the subway there. So many benefits, but the jobs are critical for that part of Northwest Queens, where we need to see the economy scaled up.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you about the mystery in the sky right now. It's a lot of people are saying, well, it's only New Jersey, but there have been these sightings of these drones or whatever they are over parts of Brooklyn and Queens and Staten Island.
Midwest.
Midwest as well, San Diego. What have you heard? What have your residents been saying? Have you seen anything?
I've just seen aliens, Dan.
Just aliens.
I don't know what's going on. But no, we do need to take this serious. And it's important because I represent both airports, the gateway into the world, JFK and LaGuardia. muddier.
Yeah.
So this is a concern of safety, and I know that Senator Schumer has announced some funding for drone monitors as well, and the governor has been working with us as well. So we'll continue to monitor, but more importantly, we do need to know who is doing this, and they do need to be held accountable.
Do you see how like there's a mistrust then? When the government's saying, well, we don't know, or you're not seeing what you're really seeing, and so that's where this like mistrust between officials and the public actually starts to grow.
We all watch Independence Day, Dan.
The meme, yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? So if it is an alien being, whatever it may be, just can you come out and say
Just say it. I agree. I agree.
So is there any talks to have any more local conversations and forums?
I mean, I don't know.
about
What do
this?
you do? I mean, you got the incoming president saying shoot him down. Or you shoot him
Right.
down, it may hit my house. I live in the flight path. I mean, I don't know. But what I want to say is that we need to get to the bottom of this, and whoever's doing this needs to be held accountable.
Good
and
stuff.
if the government is test piloting things, they need
Just
to be
say it.
transparent as well.
Yeah.
Just be transparent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Transparency is key here. So speaking of transparency, there was a big Powerball jackpot, $256 million winner in Queens. Is it you?
It's Juan Soto for sure.
Well, I mean, you could triple that amount for the Powerball.
I'm too cheap to gamble. I don't play the lottery.
Okay, so it's not you.
It wasn't me.
Wasn't you.
I probably wouldn't have showed up to this interview.
Wasn't us. 'Cause we're here. Yeah, it wasn't us either. We're all here.
We saw the top of his head, right? We saw
Great
It was the alien. I can assure you they got it.
That's why they were here.
Great to have you here, as
Thanks.
always. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.